The following is the cinematic retelling of events that occurred with players who participated in Gamma Haven Beta's downtime event phase, a phase solely dedicated for each player to progress in their own story arc and character progression. It is a concoction of each player's story rolled into one result. Listeners' discretion is advised. Haven City, an ugly city. Episode 2. Forecast. Scene 1. North Haven. Unistone Jail, 9 p.m. The camera pans to an officer reclined in his chair, eating passion fruit water ice, watching the Weather Channel.
Expect incredible weather tomorrow, just in time to kick off Haven City's We Will Survive festival.
This news network was not only the most popular network because they were right all the time, but their news anchors were pretty damn interesting as well. This one in particular was weird.
Enjoy cool temperatures in the low 80s with sun all day Saturday and all through Sunday. What a great weekend it'll be!
The cop looks over to a younger, less seasoned officer sitting by the jail cells. Hey, you asked earlier if you could take off tomorrow so you can take your son to the festival, yeah? The kid looks up and out of his Game Enforcer magazine. Oh, yes, sir. If possible, I'm new, so, I would understand if the cop interrupts. You can go. I know how fresh a divorce can be. Any points you can get with your son is paramount, right? The kid's eyes lights up. Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, my kid's favorite rapper is headlining the event. The cop slams his empty cup down. Yeah. Go get me a napkin, youngin'. The camera follows the cop past the cells, then halts on the cells. The young officer peers into the cell and squints his eyes at one of the prisoners. Then he looks down at his stack of papers. You see the man from the roof that Shade neutralized on the paper. It's his whole criminal record. The camera zooms in to the name, Seth Masters. You see the cell lined with banged up unmasked burglars, some still unconscious. The camera zooms in slowly toward the back. You see Seth Masters sitting in the back, slouched over with his head down in his zone, recapping the events of being neutralized by the teleporting hero, Shade, the so-called hero these officers and news media outlets keep talking about. Seth snaps back and focuses on his current inconvenient situation. Involuntary downtime, to say the least. He uses his power to access and see through all the cameras in Unistone Jail and counts 8 cops. One of the cops is seen masturbating behind the vending machine. Seth is approached by the leader of the burglars, his nose all broken up and still leaking a bit. He stands over Seth in a menacing way. Don't I know you? Yo, Fred, isn't this the guy who wouldn't come down on the price for those weapons we first wanted? Fred scratches his beard. I don't know, man, but them ooze guns are mildly underwhelming, homie, and heavy as hell. Yeah. Well, we wouldn't be in here if we had what he was selling. But for the price of what he was selling them shits for, I'd only have one arm and one leg to shoot that shit with. The leader gets louder and louder and more hostile and begins encroaching more on Seth's personal space. The camera cuts to behind the head of the cop at the desk watching the Weather Channel. He stands up with his hand on his hammer and slams his fist on the table. Hey, settle down in there and rest those jaws for the cock meat sandwich buffet at Max Security Prison tomorrow morning, fellas. You see a small robotic insect crawl up the neck of the officer and into his hat. Scene 2. North Haven. 9 p.m. Bloodvein headquarters. The camera cuts to a 3-story estate. An oriental vibe, with lots of bronze art, sculptures, and a large garden. The camera cuts to one of the rooms. The room is dark and only lit by a television on the wall, a flat-screen plasma. Breaking news! Governor Gabe Gabucci's home was attacked by a hostile mutant today. His security team says he and his family are safe. The mutant threat was killed. The TV cuts off and a lamp at a desk cuts on. You see Master Chang Wang, a mature Asian man looking irritated and disappointed by the news, rubbing his temples while sitting at a beautiful oriental desk. Wang is a well-known philanthropist and businessman, investor, who could do no wrong by the people of Haven, and is great friends with Governor Gabuchi. However, Wang is a heavy player in the underground drug trade and invests criminal and Haven taxes into the trade. Wang dismisses his 3 security guards standing patiently by his door. No one is to enter my grounds tonight. No calls, no visitors, and no one is to enter this floor other than you two. I'm turning in tonight. The guards exit the room as commanded. The 3 guards debate which 2 will watch the doors tonight and easily come to a compromise. The 3rd guard unbuttons his tie and says, "Gentlemen, have a good night. And I'll have those We Will Survive Festival tickets for your family tomorrow, fellas. Just meet me in the parking lot." He departs. An hour goes by, and the camera cuts to Wang in his bedroom, inhaling his own designer drug titled Luxury, of red mist escaping from a small cartridge while viewing his illuminated garden from the window. He wobbles and giggles his way to his bed and lays back. The camera cuts to the 2 guards guarding the door. They become alert when they hear footsteps approaching. The guard says to the other, "Hey, is that Jim again? Did he forget something?" Jim approaches. The guard says, "Hey man, did you just decide to give us the tickets tonight, or what are you doing here? You didn't have to do that if that's the case." Jim doesn't say anything. Jim reaches in his jacket and in one motion pulls a special silenced pistol out and fires a glob of clear ooze at the faces of both guards. They both begin to suffocate in silence as they watch the emotionless Jim enter Wang's quarters. The camera cuts to Wang as he lays sprawled out in ecstasy on a soft, velvety comforter, warm to the touch. He looks up slowly, eyes completely black like a demon, a small side effect of luxury. He pushes his words out. Who's there?" Jim steps out of the darkness and says, "Justice," and shoots Wang in the face with the suffocating projectile of clear ooze. Jim stands over Wang as he writhes and gasps for oxygen. He's not getting that though. Scene 3. North Haven. 9 p.m. Gordon Gale's apartment. The camera moves slowly through the corridor of a 1-bedroom apartment, then cuts to a man in the center of his room sitting in front of a table of many mice. All the mice range in age from really young to old and on the verge of death. Gale Gordon is focusing on one mouse as it begins to age before his very eyes. Simultaneously, another mouse on the table begins to be affected by this and either gets younger or older, and he does this until a particular mouse becomes the recipient of the collateral effect, and he repeats this until the results of his experiments were successful majority of the time. And in this scenario, time is fragile and is the best to be handled with dexterous tact. Once satisfied with tonight's progress, he peers over to a newspaper article highlighting the fact that tomorrow is the We Will Survive Festival at South Haven Park. He picks up a phone and dials a number, and to the person who answers, he says, "I'll be there." Scene 4. North Haven. Unistone Jailhouse. 9:15 p.m. Seth looks up at the burly man with the broken nose flapping his jaws standing in front of him. The pupils of his eyes rotate in full circle as he scans the man and sees he has a functional pacemaker. Seth sabotages its proper functions and causes the man to spiral down into the ground, screaming and drooling and clutching his chest in immense pain. The other men rush to his aid. Officers rush to all the commotion as they stand and watch the criminals tend to their dying leader in the cell. The young new cop from earlier reaches for his keys while yelling, "Call an ambulance!" The older cop stops him in his tracks with a hard poke to his ribs with his nightstick. If you still want off tomorrow, you're gonna stand back, soldier. We ain't opening that cell. We're too short-staffed, and that fucker killed 2 officers earlier. Good riddance to him. The younger officer looks agitated. We can't just, the officer interrupts him. Toughen up. The older cop signals to the others to call the ambulance. Suddenly, the young cop darts toward the cell and unlocks it anyway. He pushes the other burglars out the way and says, "Don't worry. I was a paramedic too. I'll save your leader." All the burglars look at each other like, what the? Then begin jumping the young officer. His head gets grabbed and slammed into the ground as the top row of his teeth dance across the floor. The other cops pull their weapons and begin firing at the charging criminals escaping from the cell. They skirmish and shots are fired, but the cops are outnumbered. The camera whirls around the tussling of the cops and criminals as you see small robotic insects leap from person to person and attach themselves somewhere on their bodies. Seth Masters stands up and peers down at the leader grasping his heart, looking up at him on the verge of death. The criminal murmurs his last breath as he looks up at him in shock. Anarchy 12. Seth Masters, or otherwise known as Anarchy 12, steps over him and through the chaos as both parties brawl and spill each other's blood while wrestling firearms away from each other. Anarchy walks straight to the room where he saw his belongings stored through the camera feed. He gathers his tech and proceeds to exit the room. As he steps out into the hall, he makes eye contact with one of the officers behind the vending machine with no pants trying to dial out for backup on his phone and walkie-talkie, but Anarchy must have shut out all communication to the outside. Anarchy smiles at him. Then the camera splits into multiple frames showing each robotic insect attached to each person in the building begin to blink rapidly, then explode. Body matter hits the walls and the police station is painted with blood. No one's alive anymore. Anarchy exits calmly out the back of the police station, then turns around to flip off the camera watching him escape. Scene 5. North Haven. Saturday, 10 a.m. An older woman approximately 70 years of age prepares the docking bay on her van for her disabled grandson. He brings his scooter closer and begins to ascend onto and into the van. The lady peers in with a smile and buckles him up. "We're going to have a blast today, Michael. Your favorite rapper is going to be there." Michael gets excited and gets pretty riled up. A voice emerges from behind the lady, mocking Michael. "I'm Michael. I'm going to see my favorite rapper." The lady turns around, but is snatched out of the car and tossed onto the ground. 3 female thugs stand over her, looking down at her. "We want tickets to the festival too, but we North Haveners can't afford a train ride to South Haven. Can we borrow Rain Man's scooter? Vroom vroom." They all begin laughing as the lady starts wiggling while holding her back. My back. The camera cuts to a man standing on the roof, looking down over the city, wearing only white cargo shorts, shirtless with a red sash around his waist, and a red hood covering his head with gold trim. The camera then cuts to him at different parts of the city in various locations scoping out the area, and he looks to be gathering intel. While doing so, he hears the commotion and spots the old lady and her grandson in need, and he doesn't hesitate. He leaps off of the roof. The camera cuts to the old lady on the ground in pain. Her back is given out and she cannot move. The thugs begin to search her car and then move on to search her. But just as they get ready to lay hands on her, they're all shocked by a wave of electricity enough to burn every hair follicle off of their bodies, sending them flying into the van, knocking them unconscious. Standing in between the incapacitated thugs and the lady is Ajin Ra, a man not from here. He carried with him an aura of regality, and you can tell that he was only dressing to fit in. A man consumed by his duty to find those who assassinated his entire family. A man searching for answers as to why the crime rate has risen so sharply. The answer is not as simple as people may believe. They all blame it on the mutations that have occurred, but his wisdom denounces that. Dark clouds emerge almost unnaturally in the sky suddenly. Ajin Ra looks up in bewilderment, as does everyone else. Scene 6. South Haven. We Will Survive Festival, 9 a.m. The camera pans across to South Haven's largest park, where the We Will Survive Festival is taking place. A festival created by Governor Gabuchi to lift the spirits of everyone experiencing the collateral damage from the terrible Gamma event. You see rides, activities, food, ice cream, and big-name celebrities who are Haven natives such as rapper Pharaoh Renegade and the Mysterious Man Band, and late-night talk show host Jay Peoplz of The Peoplz Show. The camera cuts to Gordon Gale. The public know him as Tempest and the up-and-coming street magician of Haven. He's standing on his podium performing various acts of illusion that appear virtually impossible. He has captured the attention of majority of the crowd as some begin to leave Jay Peoplz' live talk show to come watch. Tempest feels waves of blue and the warmth of teals of interest and amazement splash onto him. He can feel the emotion as he captivates the audience. Now is a time, if any, to pull off a jaw-dropping illusion using more of his power like he's been practicing. But Tempest is hesitant. He knows the consequences of using his new power. He looks at the girl in the front row, and he envisions one of the mice from days ago that died of accelerated aging overnight by Gordon's failure to control his power. The crowd stares, waiting for him to begin, and they grow impatient. Jay Peoplz from The Peoplz Show is on the stage across the way and begins making fart sounds in the microphone while tap dancing. A few people begin to go back to his stage. Dark clouds from the south begin cascading across the sky as thunder and lightning begins to rumble. Everyone looks up in awe at the sudden ominous clouds contradicting the hyped weather forecast. Children as well as adults look disappointed as it begins to rain. People begin to run for cover, then suddenly, Tempest makes a sudden gesture, alerting and grabbing everyone's attention. He directs everyone to hold their hand up, and they comply. And in a split second, umbrellas appear in everyone's hands, as well as various tents providing cover from the rain as it begins to pour. The audience loses their minds in excitement, and Tempest's performance gets major acknowledgement, not only saving the event, but for being the best part of the festival as well. Scene 7. South Haven. Saturday, 5 a.m. The camera descends from the clouds down onto a roof of South Haven's tallest building. Omega Supreme, the man who saved the governor, can be seen standing on the edge of the building. He begins to ascend into the air and raises his hands with open palms as if to receive the embrace of the atmosphere. Dark clouds begin to form across all of Haven, north and south, as lightning streaks across the skies and atomic thunder roars in the clouds. Omega Supreme looks to be exercising his newfound capabilities. The camera rotates around Omega Supreme and zooms in on his face. He says, "The world is unpredictable, like the lightning thunderstorms create. But now I can control the storm, and soon I will put an end to this chaos." Thanks for listening. What you just heard was the dramatization of an ongoing interactive social RPG that's currently in beta. I encourage any and all who are fans of RPGs and or storytelling to create that character you've always imagined and throw them into this story of chaos, and pit your choices against actions made by other players. Then tune in for the results as I tell everyone what happens in Game Master fashion as each episode forges a unique chronicle and build a universe created by the players. The group is currently closed, but let me know if there are those interested as we are accepting more players. Thank you.